Hi everyone, welcome to Loop Live. My name is Josh Gallagher. I'm MediaCom APAC's Chief Product Officer, and you are at Loop Live. This is the last one for the year as everyone starts to ramp up for a really busy end to the year, a busy retail period with 11.11 tomorrow for many of those in Southeast Asia and across the region. As that ramps up, we're kind of ramping down to get busy with that retail period. And we're going to talk about that retail period today. Very soon, I'm going to invite some insiders from MediaCom to give you a little bit of a look on what's happening in this retail period. It's a really interesting retail period. We've had a whole heap of growth, as we've spoken about a lot within e-commerce. And one of the biggest changes over COVID in the last 2 years was definitely the way that we shop. I know that's been happening to me. I've already been really busy buying Christmas presents for my kids online, but that greatest online shift has already seen 25% of consumers say that that's their primary way of shopping, and it's definitely mine coming into this retail period. I read today 40 million more people have come online in Southeast Asia this year alone, 80% of them making an online purchase. My maths is right, that's around 32 million more people making purchases at the moment. Even those people going back in store as we open up a little bit more, 46% of those people are then going back and buying online. So it's a really big shift in behaviours. It was supposed to be something really easy for us to do. That shift that was quite difficult a couple of years ago was now supposed to be really easy. A targetable, measurable method of shopping was supposed to make it easy for brands. What could go wrong when everything's only one click away? Well, a lot, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about some of those complications that are coming with an omni-channel retail world. And as we move into the end of 2021 and into 2022, we're going to take a look at some of those complications that are very real across the region. We've now got an infinite shelf where people can shop everywhere, physical retail stores, but for some brands, you've got a website, a marketplace, there's third-party resellers, and now there's a whole heap of different options ranging from overseas and interstate sellers. So you're getting delivery from all over the world. You've got speedy 1 or 2 hour local delivery services coming across categories. And then you've got things like click and collect, where you're able to buy online and then pick up in store. So as I mentioned, in this week's Loop Live and the last one for the year, I'm joined by two of our experts at MediaCom to give their opinion on some of these complications that are arising from physical retail opening up again. And it's creating a really messy mix between online and offline shopping. How do we compete online with the physical experience of shopping in store? Should we expect the inevitable delays in delivery times as customer satisfaction actually reduces with online shopping? And as people take advantage of better returns policies where you can kind of stockpile and then just return things if you don't want them, how do businesses manage that over a period? So today I'm joined by these two people, Karleitia, who leads our e-commerce consulting team under Blink Consulting in Australia, and Ron, who heads up our APAC e-commerce division based in Singapore, as we discuss some of these complications and more on the eve of 11.11. So 11.11 is, of course, the festival that really kicks off a huge flurry of retail activity. It feels like we're on sale every month at the moment, but this is the big one that post 11.11, we move into Black Friday in Australia. I think it's on the 26th of November. We'll hit 12.12, Christmas, Chinese New Year, or Tet for many markets across the region. So before we get started, if you do want to ask some questions, because there's probably a lot of questions around e-commerce and you do have the opportunity to access these two experts, go and place them in the comments box and I'll try and get to them today. So I've spoken about a couple of negatives in here around the complications, but I'm going to start with a positive. I'm going to ask both of our panelists today a question, but starting with Karleitia. And that question is around experience. We've got more and more sales, more places to buy. So what are you seeing, Karleitia, as the biggest benefit of more retail channels for brands? Maybe it's the promises of new branded experiences like live commerce. It could be physical things like in-store formats, more choice in retailers, or even some of those delivery options. So what do you see as the biggest benefit?
I think the biggest benefit of more retail channels will always be an additional revenue outside of the traditional channels that we have, and the opportunity to acquire new customers. I don't think those two benefits have actually changed, but certainly there's the opportunity now to deliver new and better experiences, which I think is the biggest benefit for brands. I think that the past 2 years has been a real positive, if you can find a positive in COVID, in the sense that consumers have become so much more vocal about what they want to buy, where they want to buy and how they want to buy, which is making it really easier for brands, I think, to develop additional ways to engage. Brands really need to modify their approach to individual channels and really look at the type of consumer that shops within those specific channels and really come about building an experience that fits that specific consumer and that channel. And since there's a lot more of these channels, there should be a lot more opportunities. There's a lot more in terms of what they can do. You know, there's live commerce, there's digitized in-store experiences, exclusives, numerous delivery options. They're really all a part of that mix. So, and it's all really quite relevant to the consumer journey. So in terms of, is there something specific? Look, I think the sky's the limit in terms of what can be done.
Ron, I'll hand the same question to you. I've got a couple of follow-ups maybe for Karleitia, but I'll give you a shot to go first, and then we'll ask some more questions. I think you're on mute, Ron. I can't hear you, so while you sort that out, I'm going to ask Karleitia a question while you sort that out. So you spoke about more revenue opportunities and kind of bigger opportunities for brands. One of the interesting things that you started to talk about was start to list off the multiple experiences that you can have, live commerce, those kinds of things that have kind of created more places for brands to partake in, to really capture some of those opportunities. It sounds a bit complicated though. It sounds like there's way more things that a brand marketer or a trade marketer needs to do now. Do you find that happening? Is that there's some kind of confusion or a change in the way that we need to think about those more channels that we're using?
Look, I don't think it's more difficult. I see everything as an opportunity. I try not to look at the negative and how hard it is. With live commerce, for example, you know, you can host that through Facebook Live. You can pop that on your own domain, and you can run that for a fairly short amount of time, where you can talk to the consumer directly about products or services that you provide. So it's really a really positive opportunity. I don't see it as being a negative. And I guess in terms of saying social commerce, you know, a lot of brands are already on those platforms. I think it's just maximizing and optimizing those opportunities and really looking at how those consumers engage with those brands on those channels, and really understanding, you know, how you can build those better experiences. And you know, it's as simple as reaching out to those consumers and asking them those questions and getting them to engage with you. Live commerce is a really great opportunity for that. You can have your consumers actually ask questions and really talk to those people presenting, which is a great opportunity. I don't see it as being a negative at all. I think it's really quite positive for brands. And look, it does add extra to the marketing mix. You've got so many different channels now to be in, but it's really important to be in those channels. I think the one thing I kind of always go back to is be where your consumers are, not where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I mean, I think for me, live commerce is a really interesting one because it's kind of in a new format, but it's exactly the same way that people shop. You go in somewhere, you ask a lot of questions. Yes, it's done through a slightly different platform, but it really mimics the way that people actually want to shop and they want to engage with brands or with stores. So I think, you know, it shouldn't be overcomplicated in the way that it works.
Absolutely.
I'm going to see if Ron, if
can you hear me?
I can hear you now,
okay.
which is good.
Sorry.
So I'm going to ask you the same question as before. What's the biggest benefit of more retail channels for brands?
One thing, Josh, earlier you asked about that experience, okay, what is happening. So if you see during the pandemic, there have been many changes that has happened, because change that has happened in the consumer behavior, and because of the consumer behavior, there is a change in the consumer journey and then the consumer experience. So what is happening, there are not many brands who are winning this battle. There are brands, and especially if you see the brands who are ahead of the curve are the people who are the brands who are using data, content, and technology in a great way. So to bring few of the experience that we can expect is that how we can bring the in-store feel to a digital experience. The inability of consumers to engage in a physical environment has pushed the brands to create in-store experience. So there is a lot of use of virtual appointment. There is a use of, like what Karleitia was talking about, that live stream. So in China, for example, Taobao live stream made it easier for the brick and mortar retailers to join its live streaming platform, and it helped the participating merchants to have a huge gain. Then we get to see that there are brands who are using virtual try-on by using augmented reality, machine learning, computer vision technologies. And then we have got 3D models. We have seen that how Shopify is making 3D models available, and we have seen that which the brands who are using these 3D models, their percentage of conversion is far more. So therefore, there is a real big shift which is happening. Not many brands and retailers are being able to catch on them, but new age brands and many of the old legacy brands who are being able to catch on are winning the battle.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, I think we're seeing, as we kind of said before, the digital world mimicking the physical world in things like live commerce, but also the physical world is now taking on some of the advantages of the digital world, with a lot of that technology being used in store through experience, or being able to get people in store in that way. You mentioned a few things in there, Ron, around brands and some of the brands that are winning, or how they're able to win: data, content, technology. You threw around a lot of stuff around virtual try-ons, machine learning, 3D models, which are all kind of really present there. I want to know what kind of brands are winning, though. Is it those established brands that have trust, that are able to kind of take on that new technology, or is it some of the new upstart brands that are really great with tech, that are coming through, that are really able to infiltrate this kind of new system, and be able to make some of those great experiences? So are you seeing big trusted brands being able to take that on, or is it new brands coming through that are more familiar with some of the digital technology that are able to win at the moment?
So the brands who are bringing consumers in the decision making, in the design process, are the brands who are winning. So therefore, brands who are listening to the consumer, that what kind of product they're looking for, offering they're looking for, packaging they're looking for, what kind of delivery they're being preferred, are the brands who are winning. So give an example, I will tell you. Suppose during this, one of the experiences about extending the digital channel presence and engagement. Suppose, like, if you see that in China, Nike, for example, activated its digital community by offering virtual workout, and that saw a huge gain in their active users of his app. So it's a mix, Josh, to say that the brands who are investing into automation, brands who are investing into content, brands who are investing into data, so whether it's a new age brand or the brand with legacy, are winning. During this pandemic, we also saw that consumer, actually 75%, two large country of e-commerce, which is US and China, saw 75 of consumers actually left their loyalty and moved on to the brands, because the brands who offered better experience, availability, value, they moved on to it, and that is going to stay with them. So I would suggest that brands who can understand the consumers well and bringing in experience and the behavior and changing the behavior are the brands who are winning this battle.
Cool. So I think what's happened is that expectations have changed a little bit. You talk about, listening to your consumer, making sure that product development, but also some of those options that they have around logistics and actually getting the product to some of the things that are most important now. And really that battleground of actually receiving products is becoming as important or more important than ever. So I'm going to hand over to Karleitia on this one. Not everyone can win. I guess that's why we're here today. Some brands are doing really well and some brands are winning and some aren't. Some processes are doing really well and some aren't. I want to get some of your knowledge and some of your experience, maybe from Australia, on those changes in expectations that customers are having. And will that cause any complication throughout those retail periods? Are those heightened expectations maybe around delivery going to be fallen short on during the holiday period, do you think?
Absolutely. I think the biggest factor dominating consumer expectations right now is the impact of COVID on global supply chains and absolutely local delivery. And I really think the impacts will be felt into the new year. With the increase in online shopper frequency and spend over the last 2 years, the demand has really put incredible pressure on that. And I don't see a solution happening anytime soon. In fact, I actually see these having a lot more implications for retailers in securing Christmas and New Year sales. It's an implication that I think a lot of businesses just didn't really consider. And you can see that with a lot of bare shelves in stores. Bunnings and Kmart at the moment have a lot of bare stores. You can see reoccurring out of stocks online with a lot of retailers, and most definitely the delivery delays that are now pushing into weeks. So I think brands were already feeling the effects with global supply chains under the pump now that all the economies are really starting to rebound. First we stopped manufacture with COVID and now we have manufacturers who just cannot guarantee volumes anymore. So supply is a really big issue as well. We're also seeing further effect in Australia in particular with strikes along Sydney and Melbourne ports. Melbourne is actually going into month 2 of strikes. Star Trek, Toll and FedEx workers have walked off the job during peak season over pay disputes, which is impacting so much at the moment. Not just the delivery of goods but into stores, but delivery to consumers as well. I've also heard from a couple of brands that they actually feel it's a lot worse than what it was at the start of COVID because, they know where the stock is. It's sitting on containers. It's just not getting to where it needs to go. So that's a huge issue at the moment. Australia Post also announced a few weeks ago, everyone was quite aware, it was all over the media, that they had to pause collections in both New South Wales and Victoria to catch up on deliveries because a lot of, it was over 100 or so distribution centre employees that were in quarantine, which really impacted them. And, we know that there's been a knock-on effect with that. We're also hearing implications on brand side directly. Most recently, Country Roads Distribution Centre, they even had workers there that were looking to strike over pay disputes last week. So it's a really, really tricky time for brands and retailers right now. But, you were just saying earlier that the silver lining to this is that restrictions have really started to ease. We're starting to see the foot traffic go back into physical stores again. The first few days after restrictions were eased in New South Wales, we saw around 100 million in retail spending, which was up 35 million from the previous Monday. So it's good news. There's good news on both sides, but I do think the whole delivery and supply chain impact is going to be a lot more difficult into the new year if brands really don't pivot and start to make accommodations for those. It's just going to be a continued domino effect. And the people that are going to be impacted most is the consumer at the end.
Yeah, I think what we've heard is, and we've heard in some of the other sessions, those brands that can pivot quickly, the ones that can make decisions and haven't just gone from business as usual that was physical shopping into business as usual that was online shopping and then shut up kind of shop on the way that they work. The ones that have been able to change and innovate and pivot as they go have been the ones that have been the most successful. And I suppose despite some of the supply chain issues, they're going to be the ones that are going to be winning throughout the back end of this year and early into next year. So it doesn't sound good in Australia. It sounds like there's a lot of issues. Ron, maybe give some perspective outside of Australia, maybe around Southeast Asia and India, and if there's any big omni-channel issues that are happening throughout the rest of the region.
If you see that the North Star of a great omnichannel strategy is removing the friction from the parts of this fulfillment process, which matters the most to the consumer. So the brands who are winning this are the brands who are making the ease of return. They are making sure that the scheduled delivery is consistent, and also they are doing innovation when it comes to the delivery. So basically buy online, pick up on the store, and the curbside pickup. And then there is a new thing which is coming up, which is lockers and pickup drop-off points. So there are many innovations which like this that the brands are doing. If I go back and see what is happening in the Southeast Asia and India, so just before 11/11, the biggest festival that that happened in India is Diwali, and what I understand is that Amazon had their maximum sale ever in India during Diwali. And if you see, 76% of the sale has come from the second or the third tier towns. It's been a seamless operation because Amazon invested into India Post, and they have actually covered hundreds of pin codes. And I must say of the fact that I got to see that in September, in the month of September, there has been also a large amount of payment gateway usage, digital payment gateway usage that has happened in India. So the brands need to understand that there are challenges for this accelerated delivery. They need to take care of it through automation, through data, through right kind of SKU forecasting. And if they do that, then they will be absolutely fine. And consumers are definitely very conscious of the delivery acceleration because they've been spoiled by many of the retailers, many of the brands, and consumers will shift their purchase if you're not being able to meet this experience of delivery.
Yeah, I think those logistical issues will keep coming up. And I suppose the question for me, because there's such a mix of the way that retailers work and the way that retailers use those supply chains, whether they're doing it themselves or whether they're going through a pure play marketplace like an Amazon in a lot of markets around the world or someone else. Do you see a difference in the way that brands are handling it? Do you see, those bigger players like an Amazon or some of the pure players having more power given the scale that they have and the variety that they have in product, as opposed to brands going more and more direct? Karleitia, I'll start with you on that one.
Look, I think convenience is a big part of that, and I think it's really quite key. Consumers have really been quite vocal in the last couple of years around this. They really expect seamless, ultra convenient, personalized shopping experiences. And, the data is even stating to us now that there's 65% of consumers that really prefer the convenience of online shopping, and over 50% of those will still continue to online shop with those new behaviors established during COVID. So, look, to be fair, Amazon announced they were coming to the market over 5 years ago. So retail in Australia has had a lot of time to prepare for them disrupting the market in terms of how quickly they can get their products out to consumers. And look, they've really been able to amplify what they've been doing due to COVID. But I think convenience to me is the number one factor in keeping a consumer interested within the path to purchase. And I think consumers really need to start to be central to brand strategy, and this is really where the data is telling us that in terms of what the behaviors are now, that where the consumer is at is where the brand needs to be at. They need to be looking at how consumers are really engaging across all of those different channels, and what types of, issues concern them, whether it's, they need something that's going to be click and collect, they need something that's going to be delivered next day. I also think that the working from home flexibility will continue, for example, and that's really going to continue that online purchasing behavior. I think it will stay the same. So ultimately, brands really just need to be, as I've said before, they need to be where their customers at, not where they want to be.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think when we first thought about convenience with retailers coming online, it was just about speed. It was just about who could deliver it the quickest, and that changed, and it's come back a little bit over the last few months as well. But increasingly, it's about flexibility as well, giving consumers choice about whether they click and collect, or whether they receive it at home, or whether they receive it at work, or in a locker, or however that works. I think convenience is slightly changing a little bit in terms of what the consumers are asking for, which is flexibility. We've got about 5 minutes left. Ron, I'm going to leave the last one to you before I wrap up, which is around a little bit future facing. We've spoken a little bit about 2021, and we're seeing some of those challenges maybe get ironed out into 2022. But where are you seeing retail heading in the next few years, with a bit of a crystal ball on the back of some of the things that we've seen at the end of this year and early into next year?
So I see the retail will continue to provide this customer experience. They will continue to provide this acceleration. There will be some kind of a merger acquisition, because there will be some retailers and brand who will not be able to cope up, and you will get to see some kind of merger acquisition happening. Automation is imperative. You need to bring in a lot of automation. You need to bring in a lot of data. Content is going to become very big. So retailers and the brand who will be able to cope up will continue their business, and one that they will not be able to cope up will do some partnership with who can provide this kind of solution. I also see that this is becoming a very different phenomena in the experience that what we've been experiencing early. So we get to see that food is getting delivered in 1-2 hours. Alcohol is getting delivered in 1 hour. So this is a no end, and this is going to continue. Consumer will like home decor and electronic to get delivered on a particular time slot. So those expectations will continue. What is happening actually, and which is good for the industry, when we started this e-com, there has been a lot of rush on pricing discount. From there, it has moved into convenience and experience, which is good for the industry, and which is good. Also, there is a lot of counterfeit, brands, etc., which is also getting cleared up. So it's going to be a very interesting year of 2022 that we'll get to see, where we will get to see a lot of innovation, experience, and competent players coming into. And the competition has been added by Amazon Go, Alibaba. They are also coming into now offline, offering some automated retail, etc. So more innovation that we'll get to see as we go forward to the next year.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to wrap it up now. I've got 2 minutes left, right on time with all the questions that we had today. There's a couple of things that I think came out of this. One's the same that we talk about every time that we talk about e-commerce and the changes. Listen to your customer. I think it's the one place where you can't set and forget. We're seeing change. We kind of thought 6 months ago we knew what we were dealing with. There's a whole new set of rules that are coming in as we move into the back end of this year and 2022. We need to be where they are, in the places that they are, and have that real shift from, just as Ron just mentioned, from price to kind of convenience and experience. I think is the hallmark of what we know coming forward, but it could all change in the next 6 months. And I think that's the beauty of retail now, is it's giving brands the opportunity. Going back to one of the first things that Karleitia said, is to take advantage of those opportunities and those new revenue opportunities that are coming out. So I want to thank you both for joining the last Loop Live of the year. We've had around over 20 sessions this year with a whole range of topics. I want to thank everyone that's joined, both the people that have joined on panels and people presenting, but everyone who's come in the audience, made comments, or just been there, getting an inside view from people like Karleitia and Ron throughout the year. We'll be back again next year. Have a nice break from Loop Live, but we look forward to coming back and giving you even more depth to the types of things that are troubling marketers and things that you can use day to day. So thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.